So I just listened to Paul Vanderklay talking about the mediator's dilemma, in which he pointed at Jordan Peterson's Exodus series on the Daily Wire. And I'm reminded of Elliot Temple. I'm going to put links to these in the description, but Elliot Temple has an article called Communication is Hard. And for me, that's the mediator's dilemma. It's that communication is hard. And people who have skill and knowledge and experience have difficulty communicating those to other people who do not have, skills, knowledge, and experience. It's like the thought experiment, Mary's room, in which Mary is in a hypothetical room where everything is black and white, and you have the task of attempting to describe the color red to Mary. And so Moses, and people like Moses, people who develop closeness with God, the theory I have is that they have an experience that cannot be communicated with people who have not had a similar experience. And so, there are tricks which attempt to help point people in the right direction. Sometimes laws are created so that you will follow these laws, but ultimately, if you are actually going in the right direction, you wouldn't need these laws because you would just have the fellowship with God, such that at every action you would know what to do and what to say. That's the goal, like the ultimate goal, but very few people get there. Sometimes there will be parables, metaphors, in an attempt to describe an experience. And so what we can do is we can practice being humble, and we can practice attempting to understand the perspective of the other person, because communication is hard. This is the mediator's dilemma, as Paul Vanderklay called it. You can, some of these problems are described in many ways. I think I've heard the sense-making problem coined by a few people. Securing distributed cognition has been coined. Like, there's so many phrases that we attempt to use to point at what's going on. And it's really, I like what Elliot Temple has to say. So communication is hard. Imagine communicating with an alien. Even deciding what is intended to be a message and what is meaningless is tricky. So that's the way I look at someone like Moses, someone like Jesus. And that's actually the way I look at my wife sometimes, right? That's the way I look at whoever I'm trying to communicate with. It's hard to understand what the other person is trying to communicate. And I find it challenging to share meaningful experience with others. And so there has to be like a preparation such that you can learn algebra, for example. Before you can learn algebra, there are like prerequisite knowledge. And if you attempt to communicate algebra with someone who hasn't learned basic arithmetic, there will be misunderstanding, there will be confusion. And so this is the dilemma. This is the reason Moses would not be able to communicate with normal people. This is the reason when you are reading books like the Bible, this is the reason you probably don't understand what the books are saying. This is the reason when you look out at nature, where and at every experience where God is here now, you probably don't know what God is saying. And I'm just speaking from experience. I'm seeking to know. I'm seeking to know what, Moses or Solomon or Jesus or the Apostle Paul. I'm seeking to know what these characters are trying to communicate. But in order for me to understand them, I have to get closer to God. I can do that right out here, getting my hands dirty in the woods, in the forest. God's there. And I can practice that whenever I'm a husband, and when I'm a father, and when I'm trying to create something useful on the internet. So I hope y'all are doing well. Communication is hard. And the thing I'm working on and will continue to work on is thinking before I speak. So that's one cool thing about recording is I can decide to just say, no, thank you. I will try again. And so communicating in this way, like creating a recording and deciding whether to share it or not, is helpful for me because it's helpful for me as I practice thinking before I speak, as I practice asking God if the words that I am wanting to speak are coming from, the pattern of Christ or the pattern of Satan. So, and I don't have it figured out because communication is hard.